So good morning everyone. So today we are going to talk function of several variables. তো এটা একটা নতুন জিনিস। তো আজকে তোরা তাহলে কলেজ যাচ্ছিস?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
স্যার আমি কালকে যাব।
ও কালকে যাচ্ছিস, ঠিক আছে। তো সব তাহলে ইয়ে তোর তাহলে ওয়েবসাইটে সব সাবমিট হয়ে গেছে তো ঠিকঠাক করে, ফর্ম ফিল আপ বা
হ্যাঁ
টাকা?
স্যার, কাজ হয়ে গেছে, কালকে যাব
আচ্ছা কালকে,
জমাটা দিতে। আসলে আমার বাড়ি থেকে অনেকটা দূর তো কলেজ, সেই জন্য আজকে আর হবে না যাও।
ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে, আসতে যা, ডেট আছে 11 তারিখের মধ্যে দিলেই হবে, দেখলাম, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। সো আজকে আমরা তাহলে আগের দিন অবধি আমরা যেটুকুনি পড়েছি সেখানে বেসিক্যালি হচ্ছে লিমিট, কন্টিনিউটি আর ডিফারেন্সিয়েশন, এগুলোর বেসিক আইডিয়া গুলো আমরা জেনেছি। সো একটা থিওরেম হয়তো বলিনি, তো সো দ্যাট থিওরেম ইজ খুব কমন থিওরেম একটা। সো থিওরেম গোজ লাইক দিস, যে একটা ফাংশন যখন ডিফারেন্সিয়েবল হয়, দ্যাট ফাংশন ইজ এ নেসেসারিলি কন্টিনিউয়াস। দ্যাট মিনস ডিফারেন্সিয়েবল হলে ফাংশনটা কন্টিনিউয়াস হবে, but the reverse is not true. Reverse is not true means, যেটা বলতে যাচ্ছি সেটা হচ্ছে এরকম ব্যাপারটা। এটা কি So, এখন তো আমি ঠিক আছে, not it's okay. So what I was talking, that a function which is derivable or differentiable, actually these two terms we use without any caution or like that, interchangeably. But as you know, as I have talked the last day, that there is a slight difference between differentiable and derivable. In general, whenever that derivative exists and the derivative value is finite, we say, or the function is a differentiable function. So actually that is not again a definition of differentiability. Differentiability requires another definition, which I have talked, that whenever the differential, that part can be written like a into del x plus epsilon into del x, where epsilon is a number between 0 to 1 and epsilon goes to 0 as delta x goes to 0. Whenever we can write the differential of the dependent variable in this way, that means dy in this way, we can say the function is a differentiable function. So that is the point of differentiability. And derivability is a more general kind of thing, where that derivative can be, or derivative, as you know, is a limit kind of thing. So the limit can be infinite also, but in general, whenever derivative exists and it is finite, then we call it derivable. So actually this is a theorem which can be derived from the very definition of the differentiability. Whenever derivative is infinite, we say the function is, you can say the function is derivable, but the value is infinite, you can take. But in general, whenever we talk about it, whenever we talked about the limit and continuity and such things, whenever we encountered those places where the value of limit is infinity, we at once say that limit does not exist. So this is the case. So now from that point we move on, and we actually move on to function of, oh, so I was talking about a theorem. So the basic theorem was that whenever a function is derivable, it means the function should be continuous. So this is a very common theorem. Is available in book, and maybe this theorem is also there in your class 11 or 12 standard. So whenever a function is derivable or differentiable, you can show that the function is continuous, but the reverse thing, it doesn't hold. So whenever, or can you show or give example of a function which is continuous but not derivable or differentiable? Can you give some example? The very simplest example which I can guess is this thing, and I know this function is familiar to you. This f of x is equals to mod x. So why mod x is a continuous function and why it's not derivable? You can check. So why it's not continuous? Because as you know, if you calculate such kind of thing, these two things are not equal. So on the one side you will get 1, that means plus 1, another side you will get, on this thing you will get minus 1. So I request you to kindly go through the must go through the these steps involved here. You should do by your own hand. So this is a function f(x) equals to mod of x, and you should calculate the left hand limit and right hand limit both, and you will get that is one is plus 1, another is minus 1. So limit doesn't exist, hence this function is not continuous also. So this is a very simplest thing where you can show a function. I'm talking about derivability, not this thing. It's not this thing. Let me do one thing. I think I'm doing or talking nonsense. So basically, you do this calculation. The first one is limit h tends to 0 plus f of x plus h minus fx divided by this x plus h minus x. That means this is h. So you do this calculation and you will get plus 1. Not this is not the not plus 1. I am talking wrong. Is this value is plus 1, and if you go on and do this calculation, x tends to 0 minus, this is 0 plus and this is 0 minus, and you will get value minus 1. So I was talking, what I was wanted to talk is these two things, and this value is plus 1 and this value is minus 1. So the function is obviously not derivable, but there is no way the function is discontinuous. This function is a very good example of a continuous function. You will check, this value will not be plus 1 and this value will not be minus 1. Yeah, if you check, these two value will be 0. There is no point of discontinuity. It's a very good function, because if you want to know the graph of the function, I can show you that this function is a mod x function, and if you remember, this function is like this thing. So as you see that you can draw this function without lifting your pen, it's previous idea. So this is a function fx equals to mod x, and you can draw the graph very well by without lifting your pen. So the function is continuous. So I am telling you again for the clarity that this thing was I was talking, it's I somehow said the wrong thing. This is not the plus 1 and minus 1, but this is exactly for the derivable case. That means whenever you check the derivative of this function from the very definition of the derivability, you will see that the right hand side and the left hand side, these two limits you have to calculate for taking derivability. The value will be +1 and -1. One side value will be +1 and other side will be -1. So this value will be at x equals to 0. That means you are checking the limit of such kind of limit at the value x equals to 0. This is not for all point, but at x equals to 0 point. You should remember, because you see that the problematic point which you can think of is this point. I think there is no problematic point here or here, because you see this whole thing is a straight line. This whole thing is a straight line, but as a whole is not a straight line. Since this is a straight line, and you know any point on the straight line, whatever point you can take uh, on this point, since it's a straight line, the behavior of straight line is very simple, and the function should be you can take whatever. It is also continuous everywhere. It's derivable on this line also, continuous and derivable. All these things happens. But what about this point? This point means the origin 0 0 or x equals to 0 point. So what is the status of continuity and what is the status of differentiability? So whenever you check out that continuity, you see there is actually no problem. You see you can move through this point through this x equals to 0 at will. No, there is no problem at all. But there is a problem on differentiability or derivability, because I think you have a little bit idea about what is the meaning of dy dx. So dy dx is nothing but the slope of the tangent. So it gives the slope of the tangent. So I think whenever you have done some problem of finding slope some tangents and normals, such kind of thing, whenever you are dealing with this kind of problems, you at once try to find what is dy dx, and dy dx gives you the slope of the tangent. So actually at this point, whenever you try to draw the tangent, there is a problem. So at this point, so this is one branch of the graph, and this thing is another branch of the curve. So at this point, this tangent can be like this, since this is a branch of the curve, is like this way. Or if you take this point to be on this branch, this tangent could be in this way. So now, since this is a straight line, this part is a straight line, it's very hard to visualize this kind of thing. So now if you try to visualize that, if this part is like this thing or this kind of thing, see this kind of graph is there. So this is our axis, this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis. Now assume, or now try to analyze what I have said, that at this point, so let's assume this is a curve, this is a curve what we are analyzing. So now at this point, you see from this point there is one branch which is upwards and one branch which is downwards. So whenever you are talking about tangent at this point, and you take this upper branch, the tangent will be like in this way, and wherever you take this branch downwards and this point lies on this here, you have the tangent somewhere this way. So there is a problem of taking the which value or which tangent you will take. There is a contradiction like kind of thing at the point. It is a very critical point. So such kind of thing, whenever you encounter, whenever there is a more than one direction of the tangent possible, or more than two, I can't explain right now, but there can be more than one direction of tangents which are imaginary. It can also happen such kind of thing. So such kind of points are called critical points. So this type of critical points when occurs, so the derivative at that point does not exist. So since this is a kind of problem where you see the at that point this two branch there, the curve has two branch, and the curve suddenly changes its direction. So since this point, at this point the curve suddenly changes direction, so at this point the derivative does not exist. So this is an analytical way of understanding that why its derivative does not exist, but mathematically you can do in this way. So you know what is the definition of derivability or differentiability, that you have to calculate such kind of limit, or actually more precisely I can say that it is a definition of derivability at the point x. So what I am talking, derivability at the point x. Now you check these two limits, or the right hand side limit and the left hand side limit, both you check at the point x equals to 0. It's not for a general point, but it's for x equals to 0. You just put x equals to 0 here and just calculate this limit, and you also do this limit calculation by putting x equals to 0, and you consider this definition of x equals to mod x, and you will get things with +1 and this thing -1. You just do it, and this thing is obviously not equal, hence the function is not derivable. And I am again emphasizing the fact, because I have said it very wrong, that is not continuous, but its function is very continuous function. There's no problem in continuity at all. So if you check the limit, it's very simple. So you will check, this is 0, and if you check this value, this value is again 0. So no problem, because whenever you are going to calculate this kind of limit x tends to 0 minus mod x. So mod x is basically minus x, since x is going towards 0 from the left hand side. So hence in the left hand side, value of mod x is equals to minus x. So basically the next line will be limit x tends to 0 minus of minus x, and if you put x to be 0, so this becomes 0. So the answer is 0. And whenever x is going from the, or going towards 0 from the right hand side of the 0, so this mod x will be plus x. Okay, so and you are whenever you are calculating this limit x tends to 0 plus of plus x, is again will be 0. So you see that both limits are 0, hence the limit exists. And what about its continuity? The continuity is nothing but, if you want to check the value of the function at x equals to 0, again the value of the function this mod x at x equals to 0 is 0 by definition. So these three things are equal, and this is a way of checking continuity. And since this thing is satisfied, that limit and the value of the function at 0 is 0, so are both all equal, so the function is continuous. Okay, so this function is continuous but not derivable. So there exists a function which is continuous but not derivable, hence derivability implies continuity. And why derivability implies continuity? This can be proved from the definition of the derivability. You just take this derivability definition of derivability, and from this definition you can at once prove the continuity. It's very simple proof, but I am not going to the proof. Just go through that proof, and if you can't understand, just tell me in the next class. I'll make it for you. And obviously the reverse thing does not hold. So this is the point where I was talking actually. So the derivability implies continuity, but continuity does not imply derivability, and is an example of a nice function fx equals to mod x. Such kind of function is very important. Such fx equals to mod x or box x kind of functions are there. So this if you want to check, you can also check this kind of function. But remember, this function is not continuous. This is a discontinuous function. Say I think I have talked about this kind of function. So this is a discontinuous function. So actually there is no point of checking the derivability, because the function is itself discontinuous. But remember, whenever I am why I am giving this example for you, because whenever you are talking about derivability or continuity, you are talking it's such kind of property at some point. So without any point, you can't make the statement general. That means in the first example, what I was emphasizing, that function is not continuous but not differentiable, is only at a particular point, this point. But apart from that, apart from this point, you can take any point on this line or on this line. That means x lying here or x lying here, all the points. If you take any point except this x equals to 0, and you will see that the function is perfectly differentiable. There is no problem in differentiability. Okay, so that means just keep it in mind that whenever you take this x to be 0, the problem occurs. This both side, one side is +1 and another is -1. But except x equals to 0, actually there is no problem. Okay, the function is perfectly derivable or differentiable. And as I said, that there is no point or there is no problem on continuity. So there is no way we can talk about its problem of derivability at another point. There is problem only at x equals to 0. So such kind of functions, when there is such kind of sudden change of its branches, function changes suddenly its direction, there is a problem, or there is a problem of differentiability. So that's it. So now you just move on to several variable. Several variable, that means what I was talking, this kind of functions, y equals to fx. So what is this kind of function? This kind of functions are nothing but whenever you try to draw the graph, this basically such kind of figure. This is your x and y axis, and this function is like this kind of functions there. So you can draw it on a plane. So if you check, so this is a two-dimensional figure. So since this is a two-dimensional figure, whenever you have this x is a independent variable and y to be a dependent variable, so you take values of independent variable and you calculate this fx and you will get y. So you list all these x and y, plot this or this point on the graph paper. You have a graph paper, this axis is x axis, this axis is y axis, and we will get the curve or the graph of the function. You say, see, this is an example of such kind of things. So this thing is basically two-dimensional. So whenever you have a single variable, this is a single independent variable. So you have a, or if you draw the graph, is a two-dimensional graph. So basically is a planar graph. It's a plane. Basically this is a plane, xy plane, and this is a graph on the two-dimensional thing. So now what I am going to do is to generalize this. So it can be generalized in many ways. So we can generalize by increasing the number of independent variables. So if you increase this, that means now I am talking about such kind of function. So this is a function of x and t, where x and t, they are both independent variable. They are not actually dependent. You just keep it in mind, they are both independent variables. So this is equals to z. You can take it as y also, but in general I am again say that in general we take such kind of functions to be in of this form, xy. We don't generally use, this is a nomenclature, purely nomenclature. We don't generally like to use t here. So in the function of single variable, so you see that x was a independent variable and y dependent variable. So now when we move on to function of several variables, we generally take x and y to be independent variable and z to be dependent variable. Z is depending on x and y. Okay, this is the structure. So you just don't misunderstand that this y is also dependent variable, but no, this for function of two variables. Actually this thing is called function of two variables. So in this case this y is a independent variable, it's not a dependent variable. So just to make it clear from the perspective of what your problem or discussions there, so you will be clear that what is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable. Things will be clear, there is no problem, or there will be no ambiguity in understanding that thing. So these things will be clear whenever you discuss anything. So you just remember in mind that function of several variables means there is more than one independent variables. Generally the thing I am going to discuss, we will consider functions which have two independent variables. So keep it in mind, whatever problem we are going to talk, this we will take two independent variables, because these two independent variables, they are very easy to visualize. So whenever you so why I'm talking about its visualization, it's easy visualization, because you see, so whenever we have a function of one variable, we see that this is a graph of the function such and such kind of thing. So now this is a 2D. This is a function y equals to fx. So now when we move to function of two variables, so you need three axes, x, y, and z. So why x and y and z three axes you require? Because you see, you just put values of x and y and you just calculate this thing for function and you will get value of z. So you will have basically a tuple, not a, this is a tuple, 3 points. So such kind of things, if you see this is your x, y, and z axis, for example, you can take this is x, y, and z axis. So you take x and y to be independent variables, so you will get any points on this plane. This is a plane on this plane, and for this point you will get some values of z. So you will get some points here, so these points you can make the collection of these points, and this thing or this is basically your graph, which is, you see, is a curved like of things, that is, this is in a three-dimensional plane, it's not on a two-dimensional plane. So you just what you will do, you are doing just taking the values of x and y, you are choosing on this plane, and for this plane you are getting a length or the height here and here, and you just collect the upper tips of that height, and you just you can get the plot of the function. In this way you just get the plane. It can be a normal plane, or it can be a curved surface. In generally this thing is actually what we call a surface. This can be a plane surface or it can be a curved surface. In general it is a curved surface. So you see, whenever you move on to function of one variable to function of two variable, you move on to 2D to 3D. So up to this 3D you can visualize. So after that you can visualize also. You will need 4-dimensional plane. The things are theoretically possible, but you can theoretically extend these things many times. You can do in general also for n variables, n independent variables, but practically that means not practically, but to understand it visually, you can't move to more than two variables, more than two independent variables. So see, so what you have understood, that this thing is a function of two variables, is a two variable function, that means two independent variables, and whenever you plot this graph gives you a surface. So this graph gives you a surface in the three-dimensional plane, three-dimensional xyz plane. So this is the basic idea. Now what I am going to talk, we just generalize the ideas what you have learned in the previous classes, like how to extend the idea of limit, continuity, and derivability or differentiability. So how to express these three ideas here, or how can you uh, generalize that idea about limit, continuity, and derivability. So before going into that, I just need to understand one very important point. This is the main point. If you understand this point, I think you will yourself can extend the idea of limit, continuity, and derivability. So what is that thing? This thing is this. So whenever I talked with you that x goes to a in the function of one variable, you remember I talked that this thing, this is a point a, x is going towards a or x tends to a. I think sometimes you use this term tends to, that means this thing actually can occur in two ways. X is moving towards towards a, the value of x moving towards a from the right hand side. This thing we denote by x tends to a plus, and x can move towards a from the left hand side part, and we said x tends to a minus. These two things are, these two understandings are there. So I think this is clear, and I don't need to talk much about these things because these things are already very much clear to you. And now what is the case uh, in this domain, that means in the domain of function of two variables, that means this kind of thing, we should have this kind of thing. So previously it was x is or x tends to a, and now it should be x comma y tends to ab. So we have a actually there is a change because this is function of one variable, and since now it is a function of two variables, so we have to do this generalization in this way. Okay, xy is moving towards ab. So how to understand this thing graphically? So this is the graphically understanding of this kind of thing. So now what about this thing? So this thing, if you just go to next page, there is a slight difference. Whenever I was talking about function of two variables, I was taking this kind of thing, these two kind of thing. But in this case, you can't take such kind of thing. This thing is not possible. You need to understand why, and I think is a very difficult thing. And if you do such kind of thing, you will end up doing all this kind of thing, a plus, a minus. So this from the left hand side or right hand side of a, and this is left hand side and right hand side of b. So it will be, there will be four possibilities. So there will be a huge four minus of possibilities. So this thing will be very difficult. So we do it a more simpler way. So you can't take, actually there is four ways, but these four things are not taken. So again, you can say me that this thing is going or such kind of thing, if b plus, but I guess, or you can assure yourself that this kind of thing is also not possible. So what is the meaning of ab plus? Because in the function of one variable, whenever you are moving towards this direction, you can take a plus, and whenever you are moving this direction, you can take a minus. So but in the case of more than one variable, so see, this is the point ab. So now how to move to this point? from a particular point. So how to move? You can't move, or you can't assign which side is positive side and which side is negative side of this AB. You have positive and negative side of A, or positive and negative side of B, but you can't have both positive side of AB. So what is the possible way of moving to this point? So this thing is done by some curves. You can move to this point actually in two ways. So the number one way is move via curve. Curve means curve, or you can take straight line. So you know, if you have this point is xy, and if you want to move to this point, you can go this way, okay, or you can do or take some curve and go to this point, okay. In any ways, you can take any curve and move along this curve towards the point. This is the case. So there is no point of plus side and minus side, okay. So wherever the xy point lies, wherever it can lies there or there, that means it can lies here. This can be your xy point, but you see, since this is a plane, it's not a straight line, so you can move in any direction, any angular direction. You have 360-degree possibilities, you see. So since you have a 360-degree possibilities, you can't single out which is positive side and which is negative side. There is no such kind of thing. You have to move via curve. You just take a straight, you can take a straight line also, there is no problem, and there is no harm. You can take a simple straight line involving these 2 points xy and AB and move along the straight line. So if you know these 2 points, and you can easily get the equation of the straight line, and you can move through this straight line, or you can take any curve path. There is no problem. So anyways, you can go and roam around this way, this thing there and there, and just then come to this point. This is also possible. So there are infinite possibilities of moving towards this point. So this is number one way by which you can move from one point to another. So this is there is a main difference between function of one variable to function of two variables. So this is the number one point, and number 2 point which I was going to talk is another way of moving from xy to AB. So how can we move? This thing I will discuss in the next page. See, this is our card. So say this is the xy point and this is the AB point. So the first way of moving was take a straight line or take a curve, anything. So you can move this way. Now the next way of moving from a point to another is via straight line parallel to axis. This thing is straight line parallel to, this symbol is parallel to axis, and this is you move step by step. That means from this point you go towards this, and from this you go, say this is the circle of this, so this in this way, okay. So actually you move along the axis. So you move along the axis or parallel the axis, and you just reach the point. So that means you can move first x towards A and then y towards B, or you just move y towards B and then x towards A. That means you can start this movement x towards A. That means you can, at first you see this is the point A0, and if this is the point AB, and this is the point 0B. So you just move first x towards B, sorry, x towards A. That means if you are going towards this way, and from this point you are moving towards y equals to b. So y equals to b is in this way, you will reach this point ab. Otherwise, we just first move y towards b, that means you start here and you move y towards b, so you just reaching here, and then x towards a, that means from this point or very near to this point you just change your direction and go along this way, that means x towards a, so you will reach this point. So this is the movement along axis or parallel to axis, whatever you say, along the axis or along. So in this way you can reach a point starting from a arbitrary point. You just move parallel to axis, or you can say along the axis, and you just go x tends to a and then y goes to b, or you can do another way, that you first y goes along y towards b and then x towards a, and you will reach your destination. So these are the two ways you can talk about this. So whenever I say that xy tends to AB, you need to understand I can move in any ways. I can move along the axis, or I can take a curve and I can move along the curve to the or desired point. There is no problem, there is no harm in there. So now I think if you have understood this, I can move on to the definition of limit. So what is limit, or what is meant by such kind of thing? What is this? You have read this kind of thing. I think you have read the Cauchy's definition, normal Cauchy's definition, and the normal definition of such kind of limit. So now if we want to extend such idea here, this idea can be I can put it analytically in this way, that this thing this L is called a limit, okay, of this kind of function as xy goes to ab, if this thing happen, if you take epsilon to be very small positive number but arbitrary, you fix this and you will be able to get a delta. So we write there exists delta greater than 0, such that which thing will happen, that fxy minus L is less than epsilon whenever 0 and these two things happen. So you see, or if you remember that for the function of single variable, only this thing were there, this thing was there, but since it is a function of more than one variable, so this condition should satisfy over the other variable also. So you will be able to get a delta for which x minus a is the modulus of x minus a is less than delta, and modulus of y minus b is again less than delta. So we will get, or see, this is the point AB. So you will be able to get a region around delta, that means you will get such kind of region whenever x lies between a minus delta to a plus delta, that means this point is a minus delta, this point is a plus delta. So this is the length, and this is the point b plus delta, this is the point b minus delta. So you will get a length here and length here, okay. For this region you will get a region or this is called a neighborhood around AB, around the point, this middle point is AB, this middle one point is AB. So you are getting a rectangular neighborhood around AB. So you will be able to get a delta. That means you will be able to select this length, or you will be able to select such length by choosing delta in such a way. You will be able to get a neighborhood around AB, or a rectangular neighborhood around AB, such that for all points which are lying here, you will get fxy minus L is less than epsilon. This is the case. So for all points lying in this rectangular region, so such kind of neighborhood I am talking about is called rectangular neighborhood. So, but this is not the entire possibility. There can be other types of neighborhood possible. So you can take this rectangular neighborhood is one possibility. We can take other ways. That means we can take a circular type of neighborhood. So circular type of neighborhood means if you can this this thing will give you a rectangular neighborhood, but if you use such kind of thing, you see this, if you use this kind of thing, this thing will give you circular neighborhood. This definition is also possible. So you can take rectangular neighborhood in this way, or you can take any circular disk type of neighborhood. Because see, if you take this neighborhood x minus a whole square plus y minus b whole square less equals to delta square, it will give nothing, but it will give a circle around 0. You will check, this is an equation of a circle around 0 of radius delta. So if this middle point is AB, you are taking as a radius of length delta. So you are actually considering this circular neighborhood for which, or for all point which are lying in this neighborhood, in this circular disk, this function is satisfying such kind of inequality. Okay, if you can show this, the function, the limit of the function exists. So I am emphasizing it again and again that the rectangular neighborhood is not the ultimate one. This definition actually you will encounter in your books. All books follows this type kind of rectangular notations. That is, whenever I will, or whenever we extend the definition of limit and we move on to continuity or differentiability anywhere. So everywhere I am, that is, we have to fix one kind of notations. That means we have to follow the rectangular kind of neighborhood, or we have to follow this circular kind of neighborhood, or you can, I think you can take any more general type of neighborhood also. But these two things are very very common things, because these two things you can handle very easily. So there is no point, you just keep in your mind that there is no point of taking rectangular or circular neighborhood, which one of them is not better than other. It's no way, they are all equivalent. Okay, so you can take any other type of neighborhood also, but you have to keep the thing simple so that you can do your problems very easily. In general, I am generalize this also more, that this delta also can be extended like this way. This, you can take this to be delta 1 and this to be delta 2, and here you will show the existence of two delta. One is delta 1 and another is delta 2. So this neighborhood will be actually a rectangular. So this definition which I'm talking about, you see, this is exactly a square. This is a rectangle obviously, but is a particularly is a square type of neighborhood. So because you are taking the equal length here, this is delta, this is delta, but whenever this is delta 1 and delta 2, these things will be a rectangular, purely rectangular. So these things are possible. This disk type of thing is, or circular kind of thing is also possible. So it's basically, it's a disk kind of thing. It's more, because the circle is basically, you know what is meant by a circle. Circle is a collection of all points which lies along the this perimeter, but not included these points. So whenever we say this kind of neighborhood is must say it is about this neighborhood because this contains all the points here. So these are the possibilities by which you can extend your definitions of limit. And remember, this definition or this kind of limit I am talking about is a special name, is called simultaneous limit. So why it is simultaneous? Because you see, the thing I'm talking about is, see, this xy is going towards AB. This is going simultaneously. So I am taking this first type of thing is simultaneously or moving along some path or like that, not exactly parallel to axis one by one. This is not thing, and it's moving as a whole. So such kind of thing is called mm, simultaneous limit. So whenever we talk about this simultaneous kind of limit, you can this thing will help you in the calculating or understanding this kind of thing, that if you take y to be this path and if you take this to be another path, and these two are certain kind of path means what I have talked about, this thing, this that this xy can go towards AB via some path. So this y equals to phi 1x gives you one path, and y equals to phi 2x gives you another path. So these two paths are connected by this type of relation, that limit x goes towards a phi 1x and limit x2 tends to a phi 2x, they are all equal and they are equal to b, because you know without this kind of relation you can't move from xy to ab, because whenever x is going towards a, this phi 2x or y should be b, because this you know that xy, the point xy is moving towards ab. So see, whenever x is going towards a, y should go or reach b. So these two paths are possible path which are connected by this kind of relation. And if you just replace this, your function, you have this function given fxy, which I am talking or taking the limit, you just replace your function, the y part you just replace by phi 1x, this is for one path, and similarly if you replace y for another path phi 2x, and what you will do, see, this function becomes a function of single variable. So along this path the function of two variables become function of single variable. So this is the case also, and now you take the limit at as x tends to a in both cases, and you will be fine. I think you will be able to find the limit, what is the limit value or what is the limit value in this case. So now see, if this limit value is L1 and if this limit value is L2, so you should have L1 equals to L2 for simultaneous limit. For the existence of simultaneous limit, I can put it in analytically in this way, that for the existence of simultaneous limit, you just take two path, you can in two path you just approach to points AB. The paths are connected in this way. This is the mathematical way of connecting the paths, and now you just calculate the limit at the paths. Just calculate the limit as x tends to a along this path, and you just calculate the same limit along the other paths. If these two limits are equal, then the simultaneous limit exists, and this is the value of simultaneous limit. But if these two things are not equal, the simultaneous limit does not exist. It's a very clear cut thing. The simultaneous limit cannot exist whenever you take different path and get different results. So this is not possible. So for the existence of some simultaneous limit, you should have the value of limit should be the same whenever you take any arbitrary path. Okay, so this was my point, and so this is the idea of limit, and the idea of continuity is very simple, and just you can do one thing. You just apply the same Cauchy's principle, and you just include the point 0, whatever I have talked about this thing, that whenever you talk this about this definition of limit, you just remove this L thing, and you just put f of AB here, and you just include 0 point here. So that's how you can uh, just upgrade the definition of limit to definition of continuity. So this thing, this possible, you can do that thing. And another thing, you can take that this thing, but this thing I think you have done in your 11th 12th class, like this thing, or this theory actually you have applied many times, that whenever the limit value is equals to the functional value at that point, we say the function is continuous. So continuity means the limit exists, obviously the simultaneous limit, and the limiting value should be equal to the functional value at the point. So in that case, we say the function is continuous. So this is the idea of limit and continuity, and I'm going to talk another important results, that is we say repeated limit. So repeated limit is a idea. So it's a very simple thing. You have this kind of thing. This is, you have learned about, this is a simultaneous limit. Now I am going to talk about repeated limit. So what it means by repeat? Repeat means you are taking, or we are taking, this kind of thing. So we move towards the point AB one by one. So you just move first x towards A and then y towards B, or we can do the reverse thing. That means, see, we can do such kind of thing. You just first move x towards A and calculate the limit. Just calculate the limit x towards A. You take y to be constant, calculate this thing. I think this thing you can calculate is very simple, function of single variable. Now what will be the value? This is the function of y. This if you calculate this limit, you just put x equals to x tends to A, and you do whatever limit you have understood in the function of single variable, and ultimately find the result. The result will be a function of y, because y will be there. You are not putting any value of y, so y will be there. Now whatever you got, you just put limit y tends to B. So this way, you first approach, you are approaching x towards A and then y towards B. So you are getting a type of limit. So you can calculate this type of limit, and this type of limit is called repeated limit. So you are repeating. So now this thing can happen in another way also. It's a very simple thing. Just that you just first move y towards B and calculate this limit. This will be a function of x, and then again you just calculate this thing. So in this way, or in these two ways, you can calculate the repeated limit. But be careful. What thing I am talking about, or what things you should be careful, that these two things may not be equal, and in general they are not equal. So whenever you move x towards A and then y towards B, is some entirely different things, like from y towards B, going towards B, and then x towards A. That means when you interchange, or whenever you approach in the reverse way, the things will be complete different things, and they not be equal, and in general they are not equal. So what is the condition, or is there any relation between the existence of this repeated limit and this simultaneous limit where I have talked to you beforehand? Yes, there is a connection. So this thing can be put in a theorem, but I'm not going to prove the theorem because these are not in your syllabus or in your scope. So this theorem tells you that the first thing is that simultaneous limit. I'm writing the shorthand that simultaneous limit exists. So this simultaneous limit, what I talked to you before, that simultaneous limit exists, and that repeated limits, both repeated limits exist. So if two the things happens, that simultaneous limit exists and the both repeated limit exist, then this thing implies that these two repeated limits, actually there are two repeated limits, that repeated limit 1 and repeated limit 2. So by which you means repeated limit 1 means x, you can take it anyways, when x is going a and then y going b, or y going b then x going a, you can take it anyway. So these two things are equal. So the condition I'm telling you once again, that whenever that simultaneous limit exists and both repeated limit exist, you can say that this the value, or these two things should be equal, and this equal will be the value of L. This is the what is L? What L is that value of the simultaneous limit. So this is the basically theorem, that if the simultaneous limit exists and the value of the simultaneous limit is L, and the both repeated limit exist, in this case the both repeated limits are equal and their value, the common value is equals to this L, or the equals to the value of the simultaneous limit. So this is the theorem by which we can do a lot of things, but this proof is not in your syllabus. It will be better to give you some examples, but just let me introduce one more notations here, and I will give you other examples the next day. So the last thing I am going to introduce is obviously the condition, or the these derivatives. This differentiation you know, and now our derivative you know, and the idea of derivative in this function of two variables. So as you see, you have a function y equals to fx, and you know what is the value of, or what is the derivative y dy dx. You have that idea. So now we are going to generalize this thing in this case. So now we have a function z equals to fxy. So what is the meaning of derivative? Derivative means we are taking this ddx. X means this is the independent variable. That means we are differentiating the function, or differentiating the dependent variable with respect to independent variables. So since in this case we have the number of independent variables are more than one, so we can do the differentiation thing in two ways. So number one way, you can differentiate this function with respect to x, and you can also do this thing, differentiate with respect to y. So now there is one problem. So what is the problem? Basically, since there is two independent, or there are two independent variables, so that's why whenever you talk about this kind of thing, the differentiating of that dependent variable with respect to independent variable x, you take y to be constant. So without taking y to be constant, you can't define this thing also. And whenever we talk about this thing, the differential or dd y of z, that means we are differentiating z with respect to the independent variable y. You just take x to be constant. So that's why we generally don't take or write this kind of notation, and in place of this notation we write del del x of z, and this thing we just write del del y of z. So whenever we write del del x of z, you should at once understand that you are differentiating with respect to x obviously, but you are taking y to be constant. y to be purely constant. You don't have to care about y. You just treat it as a constant, and whenever you take this thing, you just treat x to be a purely constant. So you have done the derivative for single variable. That's the simple. That's the kind of thing. So, but this thing you should have some definition also. Without a definition, you can't proceed actually. So, what is the definition of this kind of thing? Or you see, you have a function, this kind of function, and you are talking about this kind of derivative. That means this kind of thing. So, since in this case you are taking derivative with respect to x and we are taking y to be constant, you just take y to be constant and put the derivative with respect to x. That means you increase x, y to be constant, and then you just subtract this thing. Again, you see you are changing y, this is again the constant, and you just put h here. So this is the definition of del f del x. And what is the definition of del f del y? Is again basically the same. In this case, you took the variable h. You just for the sake of convention, you just write k here. We are not confusing with the other definition. So here you take x to be constant, you just increase y a little bit, and you again subtracting, you just not changing x, you just subtracting f of xy, and you put k in the denominator. You just do this kind of check this kind of limit. This limit I think is very easy to check because this limit follows your normal rules of this limit kind of thing, because they are function of single variable only. So no point of talking much about these definitions, because these definitions are very simple and it's very trivial things like your previous idea of derivative in the function of single variable. So now what is important here is idea of derivatives which are of more than, or you are taking more than one variable with respect to one by one or simultaneously in any case. So the derivatives, this is the first order derivatives basically. So whenever we move on to the derivatives of the higher order, you can have this kind of thing or this kind of thing, and obviously this kind of thing, and obviously such kind of thing. But the thing which I am emphasizing is that this thing and this thing, these two things are not equal. So what is this thing? Del 2f del y del x. You see, this is basically del x of, that means you just, or you are doing derivative of f with respect to y, treating x to be constant, and you just calculate this thing, whatever will be the value, then you are taking the derivative with respect to, or you are taking the partial derivative of that thing with respect to x. So this is the definition of del 2 del x del y. You can expand in this limit form also, the very simple thing. And whenever you are talking about this thing, this is actually exactly, so you are just taking the partial derivative of f with respect to x first and then y second, but here y first then x second. So there are nomenclature. Sometimes different book follows different kinds of nomenclature, but these two nomenclature are evident, that this thing we say like f of x, then this thing we say f of y of at xy, you can say. This is the nomenclature. But in this case, so why it is fx? Because we are derivating with respect to x. This is, we are taking partial derivative with respect to y, that's why. So now what about this thing? Some books write this kind of notation, f of xy, and they write here f of yx, and some books write this to be f of yx and this to be f of xy. So it depends on what derivative you are taking first. This see, you are taking the derivative y first and x second. So they have written that taken these notations. You see, taking the in this way. You see, you are seeing x first and then you are seeing y second, but actually this is y first and x second. So whatever the notation or whatever the convention the book follows, they take such kind of things. So whenever we say f of xy, that means this is not the first thing. Actually this y is the first and then x is the second. And whenever you can take it in other ways, that this thing can also be written in this way, because y is first and x is second in terms of derivative. So you just follow particular book and whatever the convention in which way they have used the term. So but things are clear, because the one derivative or one partial second order derivative will be fxy, another will be fyx, and obviously this kind of derivatives are called mixed derivatives. They are called mixed. And you see, this kind of derivatives, there is no ambiguity, because this is f of xx and this is f of yy. There is no ambiguity, but there is some ambiguity, and just please follow a particular book whatever they have written. So basically, if you want to check, or if you want to see what is fxy, so in general, just write in the next page, that will be better, the typical definition. What is the definition of if xy at the point say AB? So you can take this is in this way, that you are doing the derivative first with respect to y, and then you are doing derivative with respect to x. So you have already done the derivative with respect to y, and then you are performing the derivative with respect to x. So you are emphasizing x. So this is basically this thing. See, we have taken fy. That means this y have already been performed, and then you are taking the derivative with respect to x. That's why you just increase x a little bit and subtract fy ab, and you have divided by the increment of x, that is 8. So this is the definition of xy, fxy at ab. And what is the definition of if yx at ab? Is a very simple thing. You just first you have just taken that this if as you have done the perform the derivative with respect to x, and you are just now doing the performing the derivative with respect to y only. So for the y, generally we take the variable k as the increment. So this k will be there. Now this is fx, and since you are considering derivative with respect to x, so what we will do, you will fix a, you just increase y a little bit, and you just subtract fxab. So these are the two definitions of these mixed derivatives, and I think you will be able to do the or you will just able to put these derivatives in the limit form, this and this. Okay, I think these two things will be evident from the two definitions. Or if you couldn't do or couldn't understand from the book, please tell me. These two definitions are similar kind of thing, and if you understand the previous two definitions, I think you will be able to do these two definitions, because these two definitions are not very new thing. They also follows such kind of limit notations. Okay, so this is the idea of derivability and the mixed derivatives, also the higher order mixed derivatives you see. And these higher order mixed derivatives may not be equal. That means these two things are not equal. So if you have given a function and if you perform the derivative one by one, that means you first do the derivative with respect to x and then y, and you can do the other way. So the result in general may not be the same. So the main question is, what is the condition, or what is the condition of the equality of these two derivatives? You see, what is the condition, or is this really happen? In general, sorry, this is not xy but this is AB. Okay, so what is the condition, or what are the conditions by which that these two things generally happens? In general, they are not equal. So the conditions for which such thing happens is given by a very famous theorem. This is called Schwarz theorem. Obviously, the proof are not the way of proofs everything in the non-continuous syllabus. So the thing you have to understand the conditions under which this thing happens. So for happening this kind of results, you need to have or need to show that this f xy, fx xy, fy xy, fxy xy, and fyx xy, they are all defined. So without, if any one of them is not defined, then you can't apply Schwarz theorem, or the result of the Schwarz theorem will not be valid. So for the existence of, or the applying the Schwarz theorem, you need to have these things are defined, and these things are defined in a neighborhood of the point AB, which you are checking the equality of these two mixed derivatives. So these things should be defined, and should be defined in a neighborhood containing the point AB. And the second condition, this is the first condition, and the second condition, this f of xy or f of yx should be continuous at AB. That means one of the mixed derivatives, that means either this fxy or fyx, should be continuous at AB. That means the point at which you are checking the equality of these two mixed derivatives. So these two mixed derivatives, either one of মানে দুটোর মধ্যে কোনো একটা, either এটা or ওটা, that is the sufficient thing. So we don't require this all two are continuous. These are not required, or you don't have to check. You just check if any of them, whatever, you can check fxy or you can check fyx, whatever you like. So one of them should be continuous at the point AB. So if you have to know the continuity at a particular point. It's not on every point, but at AB. So these two conditions you should check. If those two conditions holds, then Schwarz theorem, by virtue of Schwarz theorem, you can say that these two things are equal. This fxyab is equals to fyxab. These two things are equal, but in generally they are not equal. So you need the continuity of one of the mixed derivatives, mixed partial derivatives. Okay, and existence of all these things. So in any way, if you have this, for example, suppose this thing does not exist. So if this thing does not exist, then there is no point of calculating f of yx. This thing will not exist. This thing will not exist. So you should have existence of all these things, and you first check all these things. And if you have at some point this first order partial derivatives, one of them does not exist, then obviously these things will not exist. So then you don't have to proceed further. So at once you can say that the Schwarz theorem does not apply. You can apply, and these two things will not be equal. So, but if this thing happens, then obviously you can say that these things are they are equal and should be you should check that these things, one of them should be continuous, and you can say that this thing satisfies the Schwarz theorem, so they are equal. So whenever you get questions like this, that you have to check the equality of that partial derivatives, or you have given that so that this fxy is equals to, or the mixed partial derivatives are equal. So you just have to check, or you have to apply the Schwarz theorem on the given functions, and you have to check the all conditions whether these things are defined, and whether when one of the partial derivatives, first you have to find all the derivatives. You will be given the functions only, so you will have to calculate all these things, fx, fy, fxy, fyx. You have to calculate all these things, and then you have to state about whether all these functions are defined. And then the next thing, you just check the continuity of one of the two things, fxy and fyx at the point ab. So you know what is the mean by continuity at the point ab, because I have given the definition. And now you can state whether Schwarz theorem is applied or not, and whether they are equal. So this is the condition of Schwarz theorem, and these two conditions simultaneously gives. If these two things are held, then you can say the value of the partial derivatives are equal, mixed partial derivatives are equal at the point. So this is the Schwarz theorem. It's a very important theorem. So I think I will require one more class to discuss about I think Euler's theorem, and some chain rules are there. So I need to discuss these two things, chain rule and Euler thing. Euler theorem, there are two kind of theorems. So these two theorems are very much important. So I'm not going to discuss today. I'll discuss next day. So that's for today's class. So is there any question or doubt? You can please ask me. কারো কিছু জানার আছে?
না স্যার
বুঝে গেছিস, সব বুঝে গেছিস, তাহলে বই পড়বি, উদাহরণগুলো বোঝার চেষ্টা করবি। উদাহরণ অনেক করে দেওয়াটা রয়েছে, সেগুলো একটু বোঝার চেষ্টা করবি, কারণ আজকে আমি উদাহরণ করাতে পারলাম না, জাস্ট ইন্ট্রোডিউস করলাম থিওরিটা, উদাহরণ তার সাথে ওই বললাম যেটা অয়লারের দুটো রেজাল্ট আছে আর চেন রুল, এটা পরের দিন বলতে পারবো, সুতরাং এটা পরের দিন হবে, আজকে আর হবে না। আর বাকি রইলো বলতে তোদের টেলার্স থিওরেম এক্সপ্যানশনটা একটু করাতে হবে, ওখানে 4টে না 5টে এক্সপ্যানশন আছে, সুতরাং এই দুটো জিনিস করালে মোটামুটি তোদের সিলেবাস মোটামুটি আমার তরফ থেকে আমার পার্টে কমপ্লিট হয়ে যাবে। সুতরাং আমার একটা বা দুটো ক্লাস আর লাগবে। সুতরাং এটা যদি প্রবলেম না, হ্যাঁ বল
স্যার বলছি আমি একটু স্ক্রিন শেয়ার করছি, একটু সিলেবাসটা আপনাকে একটু দেখাবো।
সিলেবাস আমি দেখিয়ে দিচ্ছি, তুই করতে হবে না।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে,
আমি দেখিয়ে দিচ্ছি, তুই বলতে করতে। বল, দেখতে পাচ্ছিস তো? বল।
স্যার এখানে এই যে এটা আছে না ম্যালকরেন্স সিরিজ,
ম্যাকলরেন্স, হ্যাঁ
হ্যাঁ মানে ই টু দি পাওয়ার এক্স এগুলো আছে না?
হ্যাঁ, ওটাই তো টেলার সিরিজে বললাম, ম্যাকলরেন্স আর নতুন কিছু নয়, টেলার সিরিজের একটা পার্টিকুলার অংশ। ওটা জিরো রাউন্ড, টেলার সিরিজ যখন জিরো রাউন্ডে হয় তখন ম্যাকলরেন আলাদা নাম একটা দিয়েছে, আর কিছুই নেই। ঠিক আছে, যদি বললাম না টেলার্সের আমি 6টা থিওরেম, 6টা না কটা, 5টা আছে, দেখেন 1 2 3 4 5, 5টা আছে। সাইন কস ই টু দি পাওয়ার এক্স, লগ 1 + x আর 1 + x হোল টু দি পাওয়ার n, এই 5টার এক্সপেনশন তোদের পরীক্ষার কোনো একটা আসবে। ঠিক আছে, এগুলো যেমন তোদের 11 12 ছিল আমার যতটুকু ধারণা, সেটাই এখন ইনফাইনাইট সিরিজে টেলার সিরিজ, এটা ইনফাইনাইট সিরিজ বেসিক্যালি, ইনফাইনাইট সিরিজ এক্সপেনশন। সো কোন কন্ডিশন স্যাটিসফাই হলে এটা হয়। অবভিয়াসলি আজকে 6টার সময় লেকচার আছে মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেমের, বারবার বলছি মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেমের উপর একজন স্যার বলবেন, তো তোরা সবাই অ্যাটেন্ড করবি মাস্ট 6টা থেকে। তো উনি আমার সাথে কথা হয়েছে সেটা হচ্ছে এই মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেমের রেসপেক্টে, যে রোলস থিওরেম বা রোলস থিওরেমের মতন আরো দুটি থিওরেম রয়েছে, সবকটাই মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেম, যেমন কচিস বা ল্যাগ্রাঞ্জিস আছে, জানবি, বা যদি জানি না কতটা কমপ্লিট হবে আজকে করতে পারবেন, তো না হলে আমিও বলবো পরে। এই রোলস থিওরেম আর টাইপের যত মিন ভ্যালুস থিওরেম আছে সেগুলো তোদের সাথে ডিসকাস করবে, তার অ্যাপ্লিকেশন পার্টগুলো বলে দেবেন। তো অবভিয়াসলি 6টা থেকে হবে লেকচার আজকে, তো 6টার সময় তোরা অ্যাটেন্ড করিস। সুতরাং কলেজে যে যে যাবি কাজ মিটিয়ে তাড়াতাড়ি যদি চলে আসার চেষ্টা করিস। তো আজ পারফেক্ট 6টা থেকে ক্লাস হবে, হয়তো 1 ঘন্টা মোটামুটি হবে, খুব বেশি হবে না। তো ওই 1 ঘন্টার মধ্যে তোদের মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেমের রেসপেক্টে যেটুকুনি আছে সেই অংশটা যতটা হবে উনি করিয়ে দেবেন। তো এটা একটা টাইপের এক্সটেনশন লেকচারের অংশ। কিন্তু আমি বললাম যে মানে যে কোনো নতুন কোনো টপিক এই মুহূর্তে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করার থেকে তার থেকে বেটার হচ্ছে যেগুলো সিলেবাস আছে সেই টাইপের কিছু তার রেসপেক্টে অন্য কিছু বলা, মানে সিলেবাস বা সিলেবাসের বাইরে থেকে সেই জায়গাটা রেসপেক্টে, সেটা এই মুহূর্তে বেটার হবে। সুতরাং 6টার সময় তোরা আজকে অ্যাটেন্ড করিস, আমি থাকবো না, আমি জাস্ট ইন্ট্রোডিউস করাবো করিয়ে, তারপর স্যারই থাকবে। তো যতক্ষণ হবে তোরা সেই সময়টা শুনবি আর কি। আমি আর থাকবো না।
স্যার বলছি যে আমাদের বইতে একটা চ্যাপ্টার আছে, ওটা হচ্ছে জেনারেল থিওরেম, তো এর মধ্যে কি এগুলোই হচ্ছে?
কি আছে, কি নাম আছে?
জেনারেল থিওরেম একটা চ্যাপ্টার আছে।
তাতে কি আছে আমি জানি না। জেনারেল থিওরেম বলতে কি কি আছে বল, আমি তো বই দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, বলতে পারছি না।
একটু দাঁড়ান তাহলে। স্যার আমি তাহলে একটু স্ক্রিন শেয়ার করে আপনাকে একটু দেখাবো।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, দেখা দেখা।
হ্যাঁ একটু দাঁড়ান। স্যার দেখতে পাচ্ছেন?
দেখতে পাচ্ছি না, তুই পড়ে বল, মানে বড় বড় টপিক গুলো কি আছে আমি অত পরিষ্কার বুঝতে পারছি না। তুই এটা দরকার নেই, তুই এতে যা না, তুই বইয়ের ইন্ডেক্সে যা, ইন্ডেক্সে গিয়ে পরের পর বলে বল কি আছে। আরে আমি
ল্যাগ্রেঞ্জ
যতদূর দেখতে পাচ্ছি এটাই
ল্যাগ্রেঞ্জ
তো
মিন ভ্যালু।
হ্যাঁ স্যার বললাম তো এই মাত্র মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেম তো আজকে পড়বি, বললাম তো, ওটাই তো বললাম। ওখানেই হয়তো দেখবি মিন ভ্যালু থিওরেম বা টেলর্স থিওরেম গুলো সবগুলো এর
হ্যাঁ
মধ্যেই
রোল
রয়েছে।
থিওরেম আছে, হ্যাঁ।
হ্যাঁ এর মধ্যে রয়েছে, ব্যাস ওইটাই তো।
একটা ল্যাগ্রেঞ্জ এমবি থিওরেম এগুলো আছে।
হ্যাঁ ল্যাগ্রাঞ্জ আছে, কচি আছে, রোলস আছে। রোলস প্রথমে আছে, তারপর কচি, ল্যাগ্রাঞ্জ দুটো রয়েছে। তারপর ওইটাই করেসপন্ডিং টেলার থিওরেম আছে, তারপর টেলার সিরিজ রয়েছে।
ঠিক আছে।
ঠিক আছে, এটা হয়ে যাবে, এটা এমন কিছু নেই। ওকে, তাহলে যদি আজকে আর তেমন কিছু প্রবলেম না থাকে তাহলে আজকে skip করতে পারিস, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। কিন্তু বারবার বলে দিচ্ছি 6টার সময় একজন জয়েন করিস। হুম, কারণ উনি বাইরের মাস্টারমশাই কলেজের, সুতরাং রুল এক্সপেক্ট শুনিস তাহলে যাবে। আর তোরা সিলেবাসের রেসপেক্টও তোদের এটা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। ঠিক আছে, ওকে, তাহলে আপাতত তাহলে তোরা যদি কিছু না থাকে লিখ করতে পারিস।